Have you ever had this experience? You sit down at your desk, telling yourself, today I have to focus. Today I'm going to study properly. No distractions, no wasting time. And for the first few minutes, it actually feels possible. You open your notebook, organize your tabs, maybe even play some calming lo-fi music to make yourself feel productive. But then somehow, without even realizing it, you're checking your phone for just 1 second. One notification becomes 5 minutes. 5 minutes becomes 30. Then suddenly, you're watching a video about how penguins propose to each other with rocks, while your textbook sits there, collecting emotional damage. And at the end of the day, you feel guilty, frustrated, like maybe the problem is you, maybe you're lazy, maybe you just don't have discipline. But here's the truth most people never hear. Your brain is not broken. You're just trying to force it to work in a way it was never designed to work. Psychology has been studying attention, memory, and learning for decades, and what researchers discovered is surprisingly comforting. Focus is not some magical talent that only gifted people have. It's not something you're either born with or not. Focus is a system. Learning is a system. And once you understand how your brain actually works, studying stops feeling like a constant battle against yourself. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 psychological effects that can completely change the way you study, learn, and focus. These are not random life hacks stolen from productivity TikTok. These are real psychological principles backed by research. And once you start applying them, you'll notice something strange. Studying starts to feel lighter, easier, more natural. So let's get into it. First, the cocktail party effect. Imagine you're at a crowded party. Music's blasting, people are talking everywhere, glasses clinking, total chaos. Yet somehow, if someone across the room says your name, your brain instantly notices it. That's the cocktail party effect. Your brain constantly filters information, deciding what matters and what doesn't. And anything connected to you gets priority access. Now think about how this applies to studying. Most information feels boring because your brain sees it as irrelevant background noise. Random formulas, abstract theories, historical dates with zero emotional meaning attached to them. But the moment you connect knowledge to your own life, your brain lights up. For example, let's say you're learning about supply and demand in economics. Reading the textbook definition might feel painfully dry. But imagine your favorite artist announces a concert and tickets sell out in 30 seconds. Suddenly, resellers start charging insane prices. Now the concept makes sense emotionally. Or maybe you're studying psychology and learning about confirmation bias. Don't just memorize the definition. Think about arguments online. Think about that friend who only watches videos that agree with their opinions. Suddenly, the concept becomes real. Your brain remembers what feels personally meaningful. So every time you study something new, ask yourself, how does this connect to my actual life? The more personal the connection, the stronger the memory becomes. And here's the crazy part. This doesn't just improve memory. It improves focus too, because attention naturally follows meaning. Now let's talk about the spotlight effect of attention. Your brain cannot truly multitask. I know people love saying, I'm good at multitasking. No, you're good at switching attention really fast while slowly frying your concentration. Attention works like a spotlight on a stage. It can only fully illuminate one thing at a time. Every time you switch tasks, part of your mental energy gets wasted during the transition. That's why studying while checking notifications feels exhausting. Your brain keeps jumping between worlds. 1 second you're solving equations, the next second you're reading a meme about someone's cat starting a political career. And every switch weakens your focus. This is why the Pomodoro technique works so well. 25 minutes of complete focus, followed by a short break. You're training your brain to keep the spotlight fixed on one actor at a time. But here's something important. Focus is not just about removing distractions. It's about reducing decisions. Every extra tab, every buzzing notification, every object on your desk is a tiny decision competing for mental energy. So before studying, create what I call a focus ritual. Clear your desk. Put your phone out of reach. Close every unrelated tab. Open only what you need. When your environment becomes simpler, your brain becomes calmer. And if a task feels overwhelming, shrink it. Don't say, I need to study biology for 3 hours. Your brain hears that and immediately files for emotional bankruptcy. Instead say, I'll study 1 page. That's manageable. That feels safe. Which leads perfectly into the next psychological principle, the Zeigarnik effect. This effect shows that your brain remembers unfinished tasks better than finished ones. Basically, once you start something, your brain hates leaving it incomplete. It keeps nudging you to return to it. This is why starting is the hardest part, not continuing. Think about Netflix. Ever notice how episodes end with cliffhangers? Your brain hates open loops. It wants closure. You can use this against procrastination. Tell yourself you only need to study for 5 minutes. Just 5. No pressure. Most of the time, once you begin, your brain naturally wants to continue. Motion creates motivation, not the other way around. And here's another trick. Stop studying in the middle of something interesting. Leave one paragraph unfinished. Leave one problem unsolved. When you come back later, your brain will already feel pulled back into the task. It's like mentally bookmarking your own momentum. Now let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes students make: cramming. You ever stay up all night memorizing information only to forget half of it after the exam? That's because memory needs spacing. This is called the spacing effect. Your brain learns better through repeated exposure over time, not through one giant information dump. Imagine trying to water a plant by pouring an entire bucket on it once a month. Most of the water spills away, but watering it consistently every few days allows the roots to absorb it properly. Studying for 1 hour across 5 days is usually far more effective than studying 5 hours in one night. And the best part? Spaced repetition actually reduces stress because your brain doesn't feel overloaded. So instead of rereading everything over and over in one sitting, review material at intervals. 1 day later, 3 days later, a week later, a month later. Every review strengthens the neural pathways associated with that memory. You're not just memorizing information. You're building mental roads your brain can travel faster each time. Now here's another psychological tool that changes everything. Dual coding theory. Your brain processes information through 2 main systems: words and visuals. When you combine both, learning becomes far stronger. This is why diagrams, mind maps, and drawings work so well. And no, you do not need artistic talent. Your stick figures can look like malnourished potatoes. Your brain does not care. Let's say you're learning the water cycle. Reading the words evaporation, condensation, precipitation is one thing. But drawing a cloud, rain, and arrows connecting the process creates visual anchors in your memory. Or if you're learning vocabulary, don't just write definitions. Draw tiny symbols next to the words. Visual memory is powerful because your brain evolved to recognize images long before textbooks existed. So stop treating studying like pure text consumption. Make information visual. Turn concepts into diagrams, flows, symbols, colors, or stories. Your brain loves patterns and imagery. Now let's talk about something called the self-reference effect. This one is honestly kind of unfair. Your brain is naturally obsessed with you. Information connected to yourself gets remembered more deeply than neutral information. That's why you can forget random facts from a documentary, but still remember something embarrassing you said 3 years ago at 2:14 p.m. The brain prioritizes self-related information because it sees it as important for survival. So when studying, connect concepts to your identity and experiences. If you're learning resilience, don't just memorize the definition. Think about a moment when you recovered from failure. If you're learning persuasion and psychology, think about a time someone convinced you to do something you didn't originally want to do. The more you connect knowledge to your own story, the less it feels like random information, and the more it becomes part of who you are. And finally, context-dependent memory. Your brain stores memories alongside the environment where you learned them. That's why sometimes you forget everything during an exam even though you knew it perfectly at home. The environment changed. Different sounds, different lighting, different emotional state. Your memory cues disappeared. So if possible, practice in conditions similar to where you'll actually use the information. If you're preparing for exams, study sometimes in silence without music. If you're preparing for a presentation, practice standing up instead of silently reading notes. And occasionally change study locations altogether. Libraries, cafes, parks, different rooms. This makes your memory more flexible and less dependent on one specific environment. Because real mastery means being able to access knowledge anywhere, not just at your desk, with the exact same playlist playing in the background. Now here's the thing most people don't realize. Productivity is not about becoming a machine. It's about understanding your humanity. Your brain is not meant to focus for 14 hours straight without rest. It's not meant to absorb endless information with zero emotional connection. It's not meant to constantly switch between notifications, messages, videos, and steady notes while somehow remaining calm. The problem isn't that you can't focus. The problem is that modern life is perfectly engineered to destroy attention. Every app wants your brain. Every notification wants your dopamine. Every algorithm wants your time. And if you don't intentionally protect your attention, the world will gladly consume it for you. That's why focus today is almost a superpower, not because concentrating is impossible, but because distraction has become the default. And honestly, you don't need perfect discipline. You just need better systems. Systems that work with your brain instead of against it. Because once you understand these psychological effects, studying stops feeling like punishment. It starts feeling more like training. You stop blaming yourself every time your attention slips. You simply notice what pulled the spotlight away and guide it back. That's the real secret. Not perfection, redirection. Again and again and again. So starting today, don't try to master all 7 techniques at once. Pick one. Maybe it's using the Pomodoro method. Maybe it's connecting concepts to your real life. Maybe it's removing distractions before you begin. Start small, because small systems repeated consistently change your brain far more than giant bursts of motivation ever will. And remember this, your brain is not your enemy. It's a garden. Whatever you repeatedly plant, water, and protect will eventually grow. So plant focus, plant curiosity, plant consistency, and over time, you'll be shocked by what your mind becomes capable of.